I always notice that right before I'm about to start a recording, I still have this odd reflex of like, I'll do this as if I still have hair, where I'm like pushing my hair back to like semi do it in some way, shape, or form.
Is it like psychosomatic from all the hair that I have?
Potentially, that I'm taking it.
Are you just like, oh shit,
yeah,
it's in the way?
Like, wow. Oh yeah. Hang on. I have to get the man bun up. Wait, just give me a second here. Like,
they saw my hair down and everyone was like, oh my God, you have so much hair. And it's like, I don't know that that's true, but I guess the counterpoint to that is I have to use the thickest headbands I own. So I guess like it kind of is a lot of hair, but I'd never really thought about it as such because I've been like doing the same motion to put it in a bun for 2 years. And once a hair gets long enough that you lie on it when you're asleep, it's all the same length. Like once it becomes an obstacle in that way, there's no difference in it.
Is it a concern for you where you realize, oh, I'm about to do a deadlift. I need to put my hair out of the way?
No, because it's never not out of the way to begin with. If I am doing anything physical, it's up. If I am outside of the house, it's up. If I'm doing anything other than lying in bed, it's up.
Pause.
Yeah, there's your cold open.
On that note, we'll talk some Marvel Snap now. I'm sorry, that was too perfect, man.
I don't know how I didn't see it coming. I really don't. Like, I was just like, yo, I'm just having a normal conversation, totally talking about normal things. And then as soon as you said it, I was like, yep. It was right there the whole time.
Time to reflect. I think that's now going to be the theme of the day is time to reflect, because
I've never reflected. I won't reflect. I am a vampire.
You are quite white, so I do believe that bit of it.
White.
Yes.
Yes.
And you're up very late at night too, so put it together. I mean, I'm catching a trend.
Yep.
That can count. KM. Yeah, there's some joke in there. It just didn't come to my thoughts fast enough.
VM best. Maybe VM best. I don't know. I think that's like at least kind of there.
Better than anything that I thought of fast enough. So let's run with it. Speaking of let's run with it, let's go right into what people are definitely going to talk about from moment one, which is the hot topic. And let's just get it over with, because we've talked about it probably more as a content creator duo than any other combination of Marvel Snap content creators in any way, shape, or form. And that's Star-Lord, because we've gone back and forth. We had the OTA just drop, and they did drop them to a 4-3 finally. So I know a little bit about how you feel about it, obviously through our conversations, but now that they've officially made the choice and said 4-3 is the right way to go, and this is what we're going to do with it, how do you feel about it?
You have a beeping in the background.
If you can hear it, that's impressive. But yes, there's a garbage truck outside of my apartment right now. And
these are really good headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that this is what I would describe maybe as a good first step on Star-Lord, because Star-Lord is a strong card that you don't want to miss your fantastic first steps. And I'm basically going to say the same thing for every season pass card that's really good, which is like, I'd rather they be really good than they be Weapon X, but it does create more work for them when they aren't Weapon X, right? I think 4-3 is a good first step, but I think largely I'm going to say a lot of things that I think people will expect me to say, which is I hope that this does enough. I'm a bit sad they didn't hit Sholau or Batroc, because I think that especially in the context of Golden Gauntlet, they immediately become very, very, very scary cards.
Mm-hmm.
I am concerned that this is the second month in a row with a nerfed season pass that I don't actually know is nerfed enough to make it, balanced per se. I still prefer this to Weapon X, but it's hard to deny that it creates extra work for them when they miss high versus when they miss low. I think that Star-Lord's biggest crime is his play pattern. which sucks. I think it is pretty undeniable that his play pattern of do nothing for a while and then your opponent retreats is super duper lame and makes a bunch of games that suck. No arguments about that. I think he is relatively a more beatable card than Sholau even pre-nerf. If I want to go into a tournament saying I'm going to beat Star-Lord, I can do that. If I want to go into a tournament saying I want to beat Sholau, that's much more difficult. There are more ways I can approach beating Star-Lord than there are ways I can approach beating Sholau. That said, I think that there is a possibility that this has a very similar arc to Sholau, where Sholau gets nerfed and the dedicated Sholau deck, well, that goes out of business. But the less dedicated versions start hybridizing more. Maybe we'll see some actual Star-Lord in high Evo. Maybe we'll see people doing Star-Lord stuff that actually involves playing him on 5. But I also think that it's pretty reasonable to expect the deck, as currently constructed, to still just be fine. That said, people say a lot of things about how Star-Lord Master of the Sun's power nerf doesn't really matter. And it's like, I don't really buy that. I think that the power actually does matter, because you win games in Marvel Snap with power. Now, granted, sometimes you're going to be Fang Fooming, and it's not really going to matter all that much. But it matters in the case of, I need to take priority so I can guarantee my Juggernaut hits their stuff. Or I need to take priority so I can Alioth multiple lanes. That kind of stuff is where Star-Lord's power actually does matter. I think that it is a deck that is uniquely set up to ignore a power nerf, but I still think that it will matter, even through that.
I think you sound like a top 100 player.
Yes, I'm an out of touch elitist. Absolutely.
Yes. And I need to dive into that, because I heard a little
There's nothing
bit
to dive into. I am.
Yeah. And but this is, I'm looking at it from a different lens. Obviously, I'm looking at it from a everybody else lens. And real quickly, like, I'm looking at, a bunch of different creators before we go live for this recording. I'm looking at comments. I'm looking at how people are reacting. I'm looking at my Discord. I'm looking at global, which is always scary. And it's amazing that the majority of the reaction is exactly how I felt when I saw this change, that this is what they decided to do, which is that this is not going to change the play rate of the card, especially going into a new season. I can foresee a world where one version of the deck changes, and it's the Alioth version, where it's no longer the priority game. It's the, I just do points and I'm not going to worry about, well, I've got the priority, so that's my out. I think it's now, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to do a ridiculous amount of points. And I'm going to go all in on that. Very, like a negative deck does. You go all in on the combo. When you get it, you get it. You don't, you don't. The flexibility of the Alioth change is part of the conversation with Star-Lord. Because when I first saw the change, that was how I looked at it. I saw those two synergetically being, we're removing this win condition exclusively from the deck. It's the, either I do big points or I just fart on you. We're going to remove the fart on you because now you're not taking priority going into the final turn. That deck will easily adapt. And I do think that maybe you don't see it as much in the top 100. Maybe you see it even less in the top 1,000 moving forward. But I do think, especially going into next week, where you've got a new season, you've got rank reset, everybody's trying to climb. They saw how successful this deck was. And I know they're going to say, well, it's just 2 points of power. And the play rate.
It's a good bot farmer.
Yeah, it's a great bot farmer. But it's going to be 2 points that do not matter. I'm going to say that this is a nerf in exclusively the priority side. But I think the way that the deck adapts is going to define the next change, because I do think that this is not enough. And it's a little bit of it is a stepping stone change. And Second Dinner has made it very clear. They want to make sure that they get the dials right. They want to do little pieces at a time. But I'm glad that they're also not doing what they've been known to historically do, which is well, let's just nerf everything around the package first and not go right for
and
it.
Absorbing Man.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
So there's two things here. The first thing is personal. I don't really understand why people are surprised that I talk about my perspective in a game. When you got me on this podcast, did you get me on this podcast to be a voice of the people, or did you get me on this podcast because I was good at the game? I'm pretty sure it's because of the second one.
Correct.
I am someone who understands that I operate within a limited context, and I go out of my way to expand that context, like when I talk with you or talk with others who are having different experiences with me. That said, I still do believe that it's my job to tell you how I feel and not just echo how you feel back at you.
Yeah, that's
a different thing. So
Yes.
I want to be super clear about that. I am a top 100 player who is going to be telling you what it's like playing against other top 100 players. But there seems to be this assumption that it's like, okay, you're in a bubble. No, everyone is in a bubble. Every individual MMR band is a bubble.
Yep.
Just because I am distinctly aware of it doesn't mean that I'm the one that's wrong. Your experience could also be wrong. You could be over-indexing for the things that you are seeing around you. The point being made here is that generally, all else held equal, what works at a high level will work at a low level if those low-level players get better. If your goal is to climb, you can copy what works at a high level and try to understand why it works. That is typically a good strategy.
Yeah.
All of that is to say, I definitely am sort of, high elo pilled on this, but I do think it is an important part of the perspective that I provide, that I tell you this guy is beatable. And you can tell me I don't care, and that doesn't matter, and that's fine. I totally understand you being able to say, I think this sucks anyway. But he is.
Yeah.
And that's just a conversation I feel like is important to have, because I feel like I know this is a weakness of mine. And so I deliberately go out of my way to alleviate it. But by going out of my way to alleviate it, I draw attention to it. And it's almost like people aren't realizing that I'm specifically acknowledging this. And it's like, hey, I am doing the literal best anyone in my position can. Okay? Relax. And so I think that
be better.
Yeah, a little bit. Anyway, on to Star-Lord specifically. I do think you have a good point about early climbing. It's a very straightforward, easy deck that I can see being important in the upcoming bits of the season. I don't know that you have a point about play rate. Like, I think the play rate on this will drop.
I mean, it's going to de facto drop just because everyone plays the new season pass, of course, but I don't see it dropping like
now.
I think over the next 5 days, people are going to back off it because they're just tired of it. And now they have a reason to not touch it, which is, Second Hitters talked about that at length.
Valid.
Yeah. That's the purpose of nerf sometimes.
Largely my point is sometimes a nerf can do that and make the metagame better, even if it doesn't fix the problem. But we've seen when that doesn't work. Like Show Lau's a great example. Took a week or two, people realized you got to hybridize it with the Batroc stuff, and then it's busted again, at least at high levels. Notably, Show Lao, when I checked untapped data, very not busted card from ranks 50 to 99, like a 51% win rate. And I think that is, and here I'm debuting a new theory, which I like to call misery theory. Remember when misery got buffed?
Yeah.
This got buffed to a 4-9. Every top 100 player was like, what the hell is that?
I remember this.
And my theory on the misery buff is that just like the vast majority of players weren't playing her correctly. And what I mean by that is they were playing her on things that weren't the hood. They didn't understand that she was a hood bot. That's what she's there for. Those two cards are there to do the same thing. And so you have a card like Maverick in a Show Lao deck. Maybe people just don't understand that that's what that's for. Genuinely, I that's a real thing, right? And so I think that Show Lao is a deck that is also, I think, difficult to play for someone who isn't particularly an expert at the game. I had a player who is currently in the top 300 go into my Discord and be like, should I play Daredevil on 2 in my Star-Lord deck? It's like, no, you shouldn't do that. But it's good that they asked, and that's kind of why they are where they are. Because it's like, I'm going to ask the question, I'm going to get made fun of, but I'm going to get the right answer.
Right.
And I'm going to come away actually understanding what's going on here. Because like then the follow-ups were like, well, then when am I supposed to play Daredevil? And the answer is 3 when you don't have a Luna Snow. And when you do have a Luna Snow, you have to weigh how much you feel like you're getting countered in the Star-Lord deck versus how much you feel confident in going for the Star-Lord on 4 without the Daredevil backup, if you're going to be able to win if you Star-Lord on 5. It's an actual interesting and nuanced conversation, right?
Yeah.
And I genuinely just kind of think that one of the things you have to account for when balancing is that there is just going to be a significant population of people that like certain things are going to slip past. And that is something I think Star-Lord has been out long enough to no longer suffer from, where it is something I think Shou Lao still suffers from.
Okay.
Which is to say, I think Star-Lord gets a little better lower down. And I think Shou Lao gets a little worse.
I'll agree with that. Absolutely. I think Star-Lord's pretty straightforward. It's simple ask, simple reward, big reward, and then make fun things happen on the final turn. Shou Lao, a lot more nuanced strategy, getting to the setup point, especially if you're playing, the Batroc versions. I mean, you're thinking from literally turn 1, if you've got Sam and Batroc in your hand, you're already going, how valuable are the locations that I put Batroc on down on turn 1 because of where Sam's got to go. Here's where the shield's got to go afterwards. Then I got to make these moves. It's got to happen to this on 6. And you're already thinking about this from turn 1 versus skip. Skip. Yeah.
Right,
100% agreed.
It's just not intuitive enough to make you ask those questions. Like, how much should I be skipping? Like it's just different enough that you like kind of want to ask, right? And I largely think that the more specific the thing the deck does in terms of gameplay, the worse it's going to be at lower level compared to higher level.
Oh yeah, that's the move theory.
Right. The more things are about one thing, and you have to understand things is orienting around that one thing, the harder things get for people. One thing that I've noticed doing a little bit of like coaching and spectating of lower ranked players recently is that they don't rule out nearly as many things as I do. They genuinely look at all of the options as options, where like for me, many of them are foreclosed for reasons that are not apparent to them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, I encourage you, if you're a KM best as an elitist guy, I encourage you to play Doom 2099. I'm serious. Like,
yeah,
I have a firm fundamental belief. This is coming from a guy who hit rank 1 on MTG Arena with mono red. I was not very good at the game. Mono red. I don't have to be very good at the game. Take decisions out of your hands. I am so serious. The more a deck can carry you, the better off you will be. The more a deck does not put its decisions in your hands, the better off you will be. If you hear what I'm talking about and you're like, this stuck up asshole does not know anything about my experience, I promise you, you are almost certainly going to benefit from playing Doom 2099. I can't imagine how you won't. I play Doom 2099.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be good at this game. I love when I don't have to think.
You love
it's
ramp.
The greatest thing on earth. It's such a fun deck.
Right.
Like,
because it's simple. It's linear. It's okay. This is this turn. I'm probably doing this. Here's the hierarchy of things I'm looking for. Do I have it? No. Do I have it? This. Got it. Play. Like it's just you've built the flow chart in your head, and do. And I have to say. It is so rewarding to also hear it come from a different direction, because I 100% agree. And I even just put out content recently talking about this topic to a different degree because of how different Marvel Snap is today versus, how Marvel Snap was a couple of years ago. And the whole culmination point of it was, if you're going to try to get better, you need to create simple decisions, a simple retreat reason, a simple play line, a simple snap condition. And some decks organically create those for you. Ramp decks do that. Doom 2099 does that. I could even say potentially Patriot does that. Like classic, like Zoo, Patriot, Ultron style decks. Like those decks are very linear versus Shou Lao, where, yes, it's powerful. The ceiling is much higher, but the skill is also much higher to be able to get it to its maximum potential outside of knowing, okay, I got to get to Maverick on 5 and then a 1-drop and shoo. Got it. Like it's a little more than that.
Well, I mean, even just that, I think probably helps a lot. I think that another example would be, I think this is part of why Star-Lord is what he is, right? Like Star-Lord for a little bit is confusing and people are playing bad decks and bad versions of him. But now people are able to flowchart him and he becomes like a problem. And I think people are going to be like, oh, I'm getting flowcharted again. It's not great. But like with Doom 2099 specifically, there's still stuff you have to do. But the biggest case for playing a deck like that is it just lets you test your fundamentals. I was playing a game of Doom 2099 against Cerebro. I was setting up most of the game such that I could beat 3 Cerebro procs in one lane. That's not like a low level play, and it is with Doom 2099. Like, if they put a Cerebro in this lane, I will be able to be bigger than 27. Like, because they played a Cerebro there on 3, and so it was like, all right, well, now I know what I have to do in that lane. I have to think about that kind of stuff. When you play a deck that is easy, it gives you much more latitude to think like that. Because you don't have to think about your execution. You don't have to think about, am I doing this right? You don't have to think about, what are the specific plays that I'm making? You just have to think about the macro. And that is a really good deck for like, I would like to learn some macro. Where Star-Lord, I think, less good for that, for what it's worth. Like it's less transferable skill.
I don't know. I think we've gotten to a point, though, where I could argue otherwise, because you're looking for certain combinations. So like the flow chart is basically, as weird as it sounds, it's like a double flow chart where, okay, you're looking for, do you have by turn 3, do you have Luna going into Star-Lord? Okay, you do. Yes, no? Okay, if not, now we're going into turn 4. Do you have Star-Lord and at least name 2 out of 3? Grandmaster, Absorbing Man,
or just
Artem
Zola, but yeah, some way to get 2 procs.
Exactly. You do have 2 procs? No? Okay, so you're floating again if you don't. If you do, move forward. Like it's a different flow chart. It's a little bit more complicated, but it's still a flow chart for the most part.
I feel like you just described a flow chart and then you were like, it's a different flow chart.
No, I'm saying it's a different type of flow chart versus ramp, where ramp is
I feel
even
like it's the
simpler.
Same type of flow chart, dude.
Not really.
You drop,
not really.
3-drop. Which 3-drop? Are you going to blink it? Are you going to play War Machine? I
Not
think it's
really.
the same kind of flow chart.
Well, ramp, I think, is more complicated than Doom 2099. Those types of decisions, yes. When you're thinking about, do I blink? Do I electro? Do I not? Am I playing the Enchantress version? Dragon Lord, Vision, a bunch of different ways, right? That definitely has more decisions in it. Doom 2099 is straight up, like 3 costs on 3.
Doom 2099 plays itself. It really.
Do you have Doom 2099? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes. Play.
I have
no.
2 tips
don't.
for Doom 2099 players. 2 tips for Doom 2099 players. One is, you occasionally will want to be activating your Invisible Woman earlier.
Yes.
Especially if you think you are going to go off curve on a Moondragon later, right? So occasionally you'll want to be activating your Invisible Woman earlier, and then just generally keep an eye on where your board spaces are and try not to clog yourself up beforehand. And those are really the only 2 tips I can give you about playing Doom 2099.
No, you're 100%. I'm a big believer of, if you have back to back, like you're doing the double activation, you have 3 into 4, I say do it right then and there.
It depends. It's usually about Moondragon, right? Like if you think you're gonna at any point later in the game, if you realistically think you're gonna have to like play 2 3s on 6 or whatever, get those Doom bots as fast as possible. Like that's really what it is, where it's like sometimes you just like don't have a 5 or whatever, right? And you're just like,
it happens.
All right, well, there goes my Moondragon proc. And you're like, damn, I wish I had that, right?
It's true.
Like, it's specifically because Moondragon has the energy bit on her, where it's like, that matters. Is my opponent going to play a Stardust, right? Like, maybe they don't have it on 4, but if I think or know that they have that, there's just like another consideration there. Anyway, do I want to play for priority? Because that is when you activate it earlier too. If you're like, I would like priority for whatever reason, like that could be an important thing there too. But yeah, like generally just like be a little more active in thinking about IWFS in that deck, I think is a good tip. But like really, there are very few things you can do to optimize your play beyond those, I think.
And it's funny you mentioned specifically Stardust, because it's a conversation piece I want to talk about with Star-Lord, because I think this is part of the reason I'm surprised that they did not address Star-Lord and Sholau a little bit harder. And it's because of En Sabah Nur coming out next month. Like, we look at Weapon X, then we went to Sholau, obviously very drastically different cards and performance and flexibilities. And then, okay, it was so strong that clearly, yes, they had to nerf it at the end of the season. But we were also so excited to see what the possibilities with Star-Lord were. And we were theory crafting that this is probably going to be an okay card, a pretty good card. Let's see what happens. And then within, I'd say it was about 2 hours after release, all of us, after we all realized, oh, this is what we're doing with it now. Got it. Here we go. And then everyone was all in on it. And that's what the whole season has been. So we had the back-to-back seasons with that. Going into next season, I reflect back to thinking about the Sholau decks in week 1 and the Star-Lord decks in week 1. And it was, what the hell do I do against these? We have an answer for the next season pass. We have a catch-all. And it's Stardust.
Do you think we'll need it? Like, I think the answer to what the hell I'm doing against En Sabah Nur is playing a combo deck. Like, I'll play either. Like, I look at that guy and I'm just like, all right. I mean, like, you're like a pretty good value card. I'm playing Star-Lord. I'm playing Sholau. And good luck with the value, dude. Like, oh, it's not 2024. Value? Oh, I'm going to cycle the hood. Value? Come on now. I'm playing Invisible Woman and Iska. I am not about this.
No, I agree with you there. But my point is, we're going into next season already knowing the counter. And because we already know what the counter is, where if this gets out of control, we can simply say, just play Stardust, y'all. It's okay. You'll stop the effect. We have an answer. We didn't have that with Sholau. We didn't have that with Star-Lord. So now going into the season where you're using this as the premier effect for a new mechanic, why wouldn't you want to back them even further off these two specific cards?
I think that's a compelling argument. I'll say two things. First, we could say that with Star-Lord and everyone called me an elitist for saying it. Second, I think that what you're suggesting is honestly a little bit cynical. Like, really? I think that it is good that they are not doing that. I think that it is good that they are not like, people paid for these cards, let's nerf them to sell the next one. I think that's just objectively a thing that they're already running the risk of people saying just by nerfing them at all. And it's good that you're frankly worried they didn't nerf them enough, because that is far preferable to knowing that they nerfed the shit out of these cards so they could sell you another one. That's way worse. That's a way worse option, right?
No, like, it's true. It's true.
I think that's like, I would feel worse about them as a company if they did what you're saying. I would feel worse about my working relationship with them if I thought they were doing that. Like, genuinely, I would.
I think it's only because I look at the nerf as a scale of like, okay, how hard did they hit this card, right? We all basically said the same thing of, if you take one power off, you might as well have just done nothing. So they took 2 points off, which is the next lightest thing you could have done to the card, generally speaking. And their next layer down on that was, we'll take off the point off of Alioth because we're going to try to decentivize part of the package too.
Because fuck that card. Like, has anyone ever had a good experience involving that card? Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're not wrong.
Like, this card, I say this about Cosmo sometimes. Like, Cosmo is never doing a good thing for the metagame. He's always just preventing you from countering something stupid. You know what? Formal apology to Cosmo. He's doing that right now. Daredevil Cosmo doing work. You're a good boy. Alioth has never, ever done anything good for a metagame. Not one time have you been like, thank God I can Alioth this. No, it's always like, I'm playing Galactus and I'm Aliothing what you play. No, just stop. This card, I said this card should stay at 6/6 after the Techpocalypse purely on vibes. Not as a balanced decision, just because it sucks. And for the record, if you're watching this and you're like, why don't you apply the same thing to Star-Lord? I think that is the single most viable argument for nuking the shit out of Star-Lord. I want to be super clear. I do not think there's a great balance argument for it, but I think the argument of this card fucking sucks, get it out of here, extremely valid.
I think also part of the reason is over the course of the week leading up to it, I went through, because originally I was in the same wheelhouse of like 4-3 at least, and then we talked about different variations here on the podcast as well. And then all of a sudden I listened to Alex Kocha's Snapchat, and someone in the comments said what I thought was the most elegant solution, which was to simply say, and play a card here. Just by adding that, play a card, not here, sorry, and play a card. So that's where you have to float plus play a card, and then you get the +1 and +1. And I thought
I like that.
It was elegant because it incentivizes needing to have smalls in the deck, which reduces the amount of bigs in the deck. And it felt really classy. And I was like, wow, I'm that's probably the best solution I've seen yet. And I really desperately wanted that change for 3 days. And then it didn't happen. And now I think I'm more depressed. Like, God damn it.
No, I got to tell you, like, I didn't know that context. And I think that's a really, like, I would want the solution for turn 1 where it's like, okay, I got to play a wasp. What are you talking about here? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
But I do think that, like, oh no, that's really cute. It like, this is, it gates the output more by making you put more in. No, I think that's a good solution. I actually really like it. No arguments with it. That's a good solution.
Yeah.
It's probably a little too draconian, but I like the space it's playing around in. Like, that is a good space. And
it's better than dial adjustment. It's mechanic adjustment. It's saying that you can still do the thing you want, but it does some other things at the same time, because chances are you're not playing a 0-1-1, which means you're putting a certain cap on it automatically, because then you can't do certain shenanigans de facto every time. You're not going to always get six energy extra to work with the way you want to do the double combo later on. And now you can't do Foom Zola. Like, it always has
also filling up your lanes in a way that I think is pretty meaningful and compelling. Yes.
Yeah.
Largely, though, what I'm getting at, though, is I think that the risk of that would be that it's too close to gutting it. Right. Like, that's not a change you make right now. That's a change you make later. Yeah. You do not Mr. Fantastic First Steps this card, especially while it's still on sale. But even then, like, this close to it being released, I think that the worry would just be, it would be too great, right? Like, my lesson from Mr. Fantastic First Steps is, like, it's probably not as big of a deal for a card to be broken as it is for a promise to be broken.
Right. And I get taking time and taking steps. It doesn't erase the fact that, okay, I can see the end game here. Most likely we're going to this. Like, if there's, and the devs even know there's those paths. We saw that 2 weeks ago when they said, you know what, we'll keep an eye on Jeff too. No shit. Like, we can see where the future's going with this one. Yeah. You know it
we're
too.
We're gonna leave Jeff at 2-3 for sure. Yeah. I think largely that it is correct to, even if you know you have to nerf it further, it's still correct to go lighter the first time you do it.
Yeah.
That is my contention. Even if you're, like, pretty sure you know what the fix is, quote unquote, to make it have like a 50% win rate or whatever, it's still probably bad to do that at once.
And that's proof right there. This is inside baseball. That's proof that you have had way too many conversations with Glenn Jones.
Yes, I am basing this on the video I did with him. Yeah, like, that's actually what it is, right? Like, he talked about this when I pitched my show Lao 5-6 no characters thing, right? He was just like, that one, he was talking about, like, okay, well, the reason you don't want to do this basically is because you're doing too much with it. And so you want to be able to do one, then the other, right? And in this case, it would be like, well, I think it's pretty objectively clear to me that if 4-3 actually works, it's a better nerf than the thing being suggested. If 4-3 actually does its job, way easier, way less mental load. Nobody has to figure out how the hell the turn 1 is supposed to work. Nobody feels betrayed. It, like, if that actually works, that's good, right? then once or if that doesn't work, you got to figure out something else, right?
Yeah.
Like now we're on Sholau and it's like, all right, maybe he does have to go to +2. Like maybe that dude just has to, maybe I was just coping. Maybe I was just dumb and he does have to do that. Like that's totally within the realm of reality, right? I think that it's a difficult thing to do, but largely they are in the space that I think is correct. Even if it doesn't get the specific desired result immediately, I'm not really sure there's a guarantee that you'd be able to get that desired result without pissing a lot of people off.
I can respect that. On a semi-similar token, I do want to move past Starlord for a second here, because I want to hear your take on my take about the words from the devs. Because
you got like you snuck yourself into a hot takes episode.
Huh. I mean, you're not wrong. It's just an interesting way to look at it. But out of curiosity, no, you're again not wrong. Good assessment. I want to talk about Fang Foom. And the way I want to talk about Fang Foom, as I try to see if I can get this to crop on screen properly, but no, it's just being stupid.
Is with another F word. That's how I want to talk about Fang Foom.
This is how I opened my analysis of the video with Fang Foom. I read this quote. That said, this is for those who haven't read the patch notes, this is in the patch notes, and I quote, "Even with the removal of 2 power, we suspect that Fang Foom will be able to win the majority of locations he has played. This is just extraneous strength we can remove and will continue to keep an eye on him." Translation. This does jack shit. But instead of winning by bigger number, you just win. They're literally saying in that statement, he's going to win those locations. We know that. We just don't want him to win by as big of a margin.
He's supposed to win those locations. He's a 7-cost card. What do you mean? If he doesn't win those locations, what's the point of playing him?
I'm saying the way that they worded it to justify the 2 points of power was them literally admitting this change does nothing to change the play rate, the win rate, the effect of the card. It's just we're taking it off just because
that's not an admission, though.
But it is.
My point is that's not hiding anything. There's nothing being hidden. They're not like, oh my God, this is a secret. They're saying you bought this card on the premise that it would win a lane. We expect it to still be able to do that. That's what it's saying. That's it. That's all it's saying. Like, let me flip this around, right? One of the things you objectively think is good in patches is when they give like +2 power to a card that definitely will not be busted and it still gets that +2 power because that's just a correct thing to do. You can keep this card, you can make the card stronger, alleviate a little bit of power creep and not create any problems, right?
Right.
You can actually get people playing a card. That's just always a good thing to do. This is just the reverse of that. It's just the reverse of that. They could take 2 power off and not worry at all that they over nerfed this card. They can just do that for free. That doesn't mean that it's the wrong thing to do. It just means that it's a free space on the bingo card. You don't give them credit for it.
No, Jeff is a free space on the bingo card.
Sure. This is one of the ones that I predicted. You definitely don't give them credit for it. This is like the easiest nerf in the world to make.
Yes.
But it's like, they're not trying to trick you here. Fang Foom is supposed to win most of the locations he's played at. That's what the card is.
I think that promise, though, hang on. I think that promise, though, we saw a similar promise kind of get made with Blob originally.
Sure.
And this is the same progression, right? The point of Blob was to win that lane. That's just straight up what it was. Right. It was, I'm going to win this lane when I play this card. I just have to secure other stuff early enough. The problem is we live in a world where 7 energy is not a big enough cost to say okay, I can do everything else. Sorry, that's not the good enough reason, because you've already gone ahead of the curve. It's easier to secure the other lanes earlier for this to be a single lane winner guaranteed, because you just decided, well, I'm going to ramp, I'm going to play Luna Snow or whatever and get ahead of that curve organically. So that way I can dominate by turn 5 anyway to build that play line and that strategy. I think the guarantee of winning a lane should never be the case with a card, and we have Spider-Man to prove that. We have Prof X
so if that's
Pass
what you
to
think,
prove that.
If that's what you think, I have no objections to that. You can just say that. That's what I mean. Like,
right.
If you think that there should not ever be a card that is like gonna win a lot of lanes, I totally understand that. I get it, right? It's typically been a problem in the past. It's a valid sentence, right?
Yeah.
But I what I didn't like was the framing of it like that was like a trick. There's no trick here.
No,
like,
I think
the card is.
I think you're combining the points when I'm trying to also make them as separate points. I think the writing of it is point 1, which is me saying that the way that they worded it was straight up them saying, listen, we know this card's still going to do exactly what we wanted it to do. So we'll take off 2 points just to say that we did, because it's extraneous strength, quote unquote. So I just found that absolutely hysterical.
Like, I guess I just don't know what the point of an OTA is if not taking off extraneous strength.
The strength that you remove to change the card should change the card. This does not change the card. If you're adding +2 to an irrelevant card.
I just disagree with the beginning, right? Like, the strength that you add or remove to a card can serve a useful function in almost all cases. If Fang Foom is too strong now, okay, sure, that's one thing. But let's say they don't take the power off him because they're like, well, it won't matter. That's worse, right? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying
that's a poor analogy, though, because you're saying it's either do it or don't. And I'm just saying that there were other options. There were other numbers. There were other dials. There were other choices that could have been made.
They could have gone to 8. Like, they could have gone to 9. They could have gone to 8. But I just don't really see the objection to saying that the 7-cost card is going to win a lot of lanes. That's what it's supposed to do.
Because no 7-cost card does that. Why start that at 7?
There's only one other 7-cost card, right? Like, if you want to make the argument, they should make Fang Foom cost 8. That's one thing. There's 4, Scar and Zombie Galacti, and
6.
What are the others? 6?
Dormammu.
There's only one that people actually play at cost, though, right? Nobody. The other ones are all discounters.
Weapon H,
except for Galacti. Yeah, discounter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying in general the amount of cards that are out there that are 7.
This is a card you are paying full retail 7 for every single time. I guess what I'm saying is, like, if I'm designing a card that I'm paying full retail 7 for, it better win the damn lane. Otherwise, I'm not playing it.
Right.
Like, if there is one specific design on which I'm going to win a lane, it's like kind of an acceptable thing to say, it would be this space.
And
can we agree on that? Even if you think it's still unacceptable.
I will agree. I'll bend on that, because I do understand what you're saying, that there has to be a cost to a guaranteed win, right? Yeah. I think the problem is that we now live, like, if this card was built a year ago, it would not be as much of a problem.
Totally valid. 100% valid. No disagreement.
Today, this card, it's too easy to get extra energy in so many other places.
100% agree.
Yeah.
100%. No arguments with that whatsoever. But it's just like, I guess I just don't think of it as an admission. You know what I mean? I don't think of it as like,
maybe that's part of where the dial's wrong. You know, maybe it does need to be an 8-cost card.
Yeah, like I thought about that, and then I was like, okay, so what we're doing is we're taking it out of ramp and we're making it only a combo card, right? Like that's sort of functionally what that does. And I was like, I guess I hate that. Because I like playing ramp, and because I think we probably shouldn't make that card only a combo card. It should be like a card for like a dumb guy stat deck. But really, like, yeah, it is that second thing, right? This isn't necessarily Fang Foom's fault. It's just there's so much energy cheat now. There's so much efficient energy cheat now. They have made things so much easier to do in that way.
It's interesting because you just brought up a really interesting conversational point about Fang Foom that I don't think people are considering, because I have seen the 8 cost conversation, but from the community in different places. And I hadn't looked at it through that lens of what do you want
him to be a dumb guy card?
Well, no. What do you want the card to be? A card that you play as 7 cost to win the lane. And what is that threshold to making it a 80% win rate chance on playing it to win the lane? Versus this is a guarantee, like a 95% chance you're going to get it to happen, but it's 8 cost, which means now you're getting double energy, which means you're playing into combo or you're cheating it out with Hela, like that kind of stuff exclusively. And I hadn't thought about it as like, what is the goal of the card until you said that.
That's sort of largely what my objection to this whole line of thinking was. Because it's like, it seems pretty clear to me that when they made this card, it was like, we're going to make a 7 that wins a lane. It's like, we're gonna make a 7, no discounters this time, no gimmicks. Scar's not a 7. Weapon H is not a 7. We can be real about that. Nobody's playing those guys for reason.
You're right. Yeah,
it isn't happening. Like, we had our tricky fancy boy 7. That's Zombie Galacti.
Yeah.
You jump through these hoops, do a bunch of stuff. Here's your little tricky Johnny 7. What about a Timmy 7? What about a 7 that's just like, I'm expensive and I'm big as shit? And like, yeah, the actual problem with Fang Foom is that he's so much bigger than 6s.
Yes.
And we have so many ways to cheat on him there. Like, that's kind of the thing. People have gotten to the point where they don't even really think of this guy as like being a build around. And it's like, you literally can't play him in a normal game of Marvel Snap. You literally don't have 7 energy on any turn in a normal game of Marvel Snap, but none of that matters because the rampers and the energy generators are so good. Yeah. How much of that is a Fang Foom problem? How much of that is a them problem? Up for debate. I just don't think it's fair to be like, the 7 cost card shouldn't win lanes. Like, yeah, it should. Otherwise, it shouldn't exist. Like, that's what it's supposed to do.
Now it's got me rethinking how to address what is the right number, the right dial for Fang Foom, because you're trying to figure out what the goal of the card is.
I liked your cap idea. I think the cap idea helps you play around him better. Where it's just like you say, cap at 12 or whatever,
Yeah, like in some way, I think that's kind of where this card's future does lie still. Where it's maximum 10 per turn, or well, not 10, but that would be worse Infinite, but like something along those lines. That's why I said double. I think we end up seeing another number get added to this card to be able to give it the extra dial that it needs to be adjusted and manipulated in the future. I definitely think so. I don't think this is a meaningful change, obviously. So the question then becomes, what is the change that makes this quote unquote balanced for a card that's supposed to win the lane? No matter, almost, I'd say probably if it had an 80% lane win rate, I think you're doing the goal of the card. But I think it's even still way above that. And if that's the case, that's where I'm like, okay, you got to figure out, maybe dial that down a little bit further. I don't think 10 is that number, because people call this new Shang-Chi. And there's a very clear, obviously, reason for it. It does the same purpose. It's negating the value of the cards that are already in your opponent's lane. And then saying, that's fine. Don't worry about those front cards. I'm going to do this instead. And it's a very valid argument. So trying to figure out where that threshold then is to say, I'm negating what your front line is. I would never go down the path of like a random card at this location. I think that's going too far, because now you're putting way too much variance in there. I could see the highest power card at this location. I could see lowest power card at this location. But again, it goes back to that constant conversation of what is the dream of the card? What is the goal of the card? And I think until you figure out what that is for, as the community listening, until you figure out what you want Fang Foom to be for you, out of all of those potential things, is it a lane winner guaranteed? Is it almost always a lane winner? Is it a combo card? Is it a Shang-Chi? Is it they're all different purposes, which change how you analyze that change.
I think there's this thing that happens if you're a content creator that's especially receptive to community feedback,
Mhm.
which is that you can mistake a solution or you can mistake a bad change for a good one because it gets people to stop complaining about a card. I think that if the goal of these changes is I don't have to hear people complaining, there are plenty of changes they could make that would do that because
Oh,
people
yeah.
complain about cards that are good. I think that that can cause some content creators and some community members to over index for, I guess, peace. You know, nobody's complaining, right? But are they excited? Right?
Right.
Nobody complained about Weapon X, but are they excited about it? No, right? Like
Mhm.
this kind of thing is difficult to balance, and you don't notice in community sentiment when they have done something correct. Because when they have done something correct, it is much like a treaty. If both parties are happy, that's if one party is happy, that's bad. If both parties are unhappy, they probably got the right way, the right thing. Both people had to give something up. Go ahead.
Can I go on a tangent for a half a second?
Yeah, go nuts.
What is it going to take to make Weapon X actually good?
Ongoing. Make that dude work in hand. Busted. You draw him and he's just like a million power. Busted. Easy.
Yeah,
You want to make that guy good, you
draw.
can do it easy. I do not think that is an ability they have not considered. Let me put it that way. Like I think they were like, maybe, yeah, like I gotta imagine that one has gone across their desk at some point. They're too good at their jobs to have not thought about that. There's basically nothing I think that I come up with that they haven't.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. It's just, I always feel bad for that card because we talk so much shit about that card for all the understandable reasons. Let's be clear here. Like this card is just not good, but legitimately, we've also never talked about like what would it take to make this card somewhat okay, if not decent. And
2/4 or ongoing.
Ongoing, definitely much stronger. I think also starting it at the first level instead of it being at +1, it's starting it at +2 could also be a solution.
Ooh, yeah, that's good. I like it.
Like, but there's also this weird world where now, because of looking at, next season coming up and knowing how objective, is going to manipulate how people look at the bottom of a card. Anytime I see these like 0 of 3, I wonder if there's an objective world for Weapon X too also.
It'd probably have to be like multi-objective, unfortunately. But this is kind of a proto-objective card. I can see that. Is that horn on your end? Am I hearing? What am I hearing? Jeez.
Y'all, I can't wait for this to be in the edit. It is some guy, again, beeping is clearly the theme of my evening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to stop legitimately right here.
Just go outside and start firing.
Oh, good. He stopped, actually. No, we're good. We're good now. Now I have to debate if I'm going to keep this in the edit or not, because God damn it.
Okay, now you definitely are. Now it's staying in the edit. This is...
you
he
can't.
Hit you. It was the comedic timing. He's watching.
Clearly. Wait for it.
He's just a really big fan of Star-Lord. He's mad that they nerfed the season pass card. People think I'm overstating that, but like I don't know. One of the comments on my video about the OTA was like, how long are we going to put up with this? How long are we going to put up with them releasing a season pass card and nerfing it? And it's like, what would you prefer they do? Not nerf it? Like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. What about all the ones they didn't buff? It's hard to deal with.
I know. Just like I said, tangent conversation about Weapon X just briefly, because as much as we like to give that card shit and that season shit, it is something that would be interesting to see be revisited. And I would have to suspect that it's on the devs' radar just because it was a season pass and it clearly did not perform and is kind of the joke of last year. Well, one of the jokes of last year. Like, you did this as a season pass and then you gave us Shu Lao and Star-Lord. Oh,
it is pretty funny.
is bad. It's really bad. Speaking of really bad, Rocket and Groot.
Yeah, I wonder about this card. I think it's probably fine. I don't know. It's probably not particularly impactful, but it's also not its fault.
Yeah, I mean it's a product of a bad meta for it, but like the only thing I was really trying to figure out how to make this card work in today's meta, because it's like, okay, well maybe there's something here, and they want to say that the move adjacent cards get a little bit of a buff like this and Jeff, and I'm like, I mean, well, there is some Jean Grey stuff going on right now that maybe this has an effect with. Maybe, I don't know. And then
Super Giant fairly well. I can see it.
Yeah, like it just kind of felt like the more I sat on it, I realized the problem with the card was not the power, it's the cost.
I would argue the problem with the card is the context. This card's a beast when people are playing good stuff mid-range. This card is heinously terrible when people are playing combo decks.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of combo decks running around right now that make this guy look pretty bad.
Yes.
I don't know that there's room. Like it's the Jack Flag problem.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, that's a cool enough card, but it's like, what am I doing to synergize with it? Where's my combo? How am I beating a Sholau Maverick? How am I beating that? Right? Like, what am I doing with this that's going to beat that? And so it can kind of only go in spaces that are still holding people back with tech, which is pretty much just Supergiant, I think, is largely my fear. Obviously, this is a very safe change to make. I like this card being around more than I like it not being around, because it's kind of a hidden release valve into bounce. Not that I think bounce is like a thing that needs a release valve or anything, but if there's anything we've learned from Star-Lord is that it's just nice to have that kind of stuff lying around in case something happens, basically. Yeah. Like, who knows when we'll be like, I need a mid-range card that is good into bounce, right? Is it a hard counter? No, but like you want something, right? In much the same way that
it's
like
an option.
Daredevil Cosmo or Supergiant against the Star-Lord decks makes it much easier to deal with them than it was to deal with Sholau, because I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do about that guy other than play him. And that kind of thing is what makes, like, it's nice that he's around. I saw people saying, why would they buff this and not Nocturne? I assume I've already at some point on this podcast given my spiel about how location changes should not be free because of what they do to the skill curve of the game, favoring too much the person who is doing the location changing. I think that people love when location changes are free because they hate when they lose to locations, and they don't realize how much they're giving up by letting their opponents have free location changes. And the more things are just 3 ruins across the board, the more the worst player is likely to lose, which maybe you're like, that's a good thing. But I think one of the key appeals of card games is that the worst player wins a lot of the time, enough to keep them playing and improving. And that's an important part of why we play card games instead of chess. That is my long story short for A, why Merlin should have been put in a dumpster 6 months ago, and B, why Nocturne should never get a buff in a million years, even if it is justifiable on stats.
No, I no arguments from me on the Nocturne side. I heard the Nocturne argument previously and was like, yeah, that just straight up. Yep. I have nothing bad to say about that context, because when that card was good, it's a terror. And
it's just a very like, the fact that, even Merlin has locations that he can't do shit about, like a Crimson Cosmos or one of the locations says you can't play here. Merlin's got locations that he doesn't work on. Nocturne just has like flat out none, basically. It's like,
no, there's none.
It is very, very few.
It's
like
true.
it's like, I think off the top of my head, I think it's like 3 or 4 locations. And it's like, even then it's a 3/5 that moves. All right. Okay. This is a little much.
Agreed. I think they're trying, to give a little bit of life so that way to some of these cards, because they just want us to have the flexible options for when the meta game begins to shift. And I think they're hoping that some of that happens organically with the season reset. We're going to get new cards. We're going to get new mechanics. It's going to start to happen. We're probably still going to need to see more, changes to the top couple of decks to really let the diversity begin to truly spread. But we haven't even talked about probably the actual coolest change in the OTA.
Oh, Yeah. This is some shit right here.
Yeah. Magus.
This card probably goes in most ongoing decks now, I would guess. Tribunal for sure. But
yeah, Tribunal.
I would imagine
definitely.
just like most ongoing decks might be the move for this guy. I'm also really interested to see 2/3 Magus in the context of objectives. We talk a lot on this show. I talk a lot, at least. Actually, you could just that's actually like just clip it there. About how doubling the impact of something is typically what you have to worry about in the first few weeks of its release. And Magus doubling the consistency of that kind of stuff seems pretty relevant to me, especially with the data mine Storm that is next month, the month after the Apocalypse one, that wants you to skip energy anyway. And it's like, okay, so this is just a second copy of it. I'm very interested in that. And then you have, you know, additionally things of the nature of like Prodigy is kind of the only other way to copy this stuff. So if you're going to have the Prodigy and not the thing to copy, this is effectively going to get you the thing to copy. Something I'm very interested to know how it works is how the hell does this work with En Sabah Nur? Like, presumably it doesn't transform into it, but it like kind of implies that it should. And so it's like, I kind of don't know what happens if you do that.
If it copies the objective piece, or
if it copies the front, it'll copy the front. It would have the text that says transform into Apocalypse Celestial is chosen.
Yeah, it's exactly what it'll do. It based on the text. Yeah, because it's not copying the on reveal, it's copying the objective.
Yeah, but like that's what it reads like it should do. But my understanding of the way cards reference each other suggests that it won't work, which is going to be a really funny thing to figure out on day one.
Considering that En Sabah Nur looks like, from at least from the words of it, that it's going to be a replacement where it's not transform. It's literally like card go away, new cards show up. And when new cards show up, therefore Magus, which has different text to be En Sabah Nur, is irrelevant now. That seems like, okay, well then it looks like it should work out similarly, which does make this card more valuable in that space. But the one I want to see it in,
generally objective, is pretty interesting. Are you going to say Cerebro 3? Please don't say Cerebro 3. God.
I mean, like, non-spectrum ongoing.
No. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Yes, I'm with you.
Because for a couple of reasons, mainly because I'm just looking for a reason to not say Cerebro 3. Second reason, I want to also make it very clear, because I put this into, of course I put this into Cerebro 3 because it's going to be really good in that. But in non-spectrum versions of ongoing, it is actually going to be interesting. Like really, really interesting. I love this card so much more now that I have the option to just drop it on 2 and float on 3. That is so low investment and low invasiveness and brings so much utility to the card. Like, I'm excited to go back to the activate decks that I was working with originally with Magus, where I was playing Joe Costa, Invisible Woman First Steps, and letting Magus take on those abilities and then draw them and then reproc them, because you could activate the activate, even though you can't directly activate Magus as an activate. I'm excited. Just
realized
for
that I can copy the Iska in my deck with this thing.
Yeah, like there, and it's not a heavy investment to do that. Flipping 4, okay, that's fine. Like, there's some cool things here. There's some really cool things here with this card.
Yeah, I think that this guy, not necessarily a sleeper, but I think he's probably like a real boy now. You know,
yes.
He's Pinocchio, and now he's a real boy.
100%. He is a card you have to start messing with. But also, it's weird where I don't feel like it's a card that requires Sunspot, because a lot of cards that ask you to float are always like, your first reflex is, oh, Sunspot, or oh, She-Hulk. This card doesn't feel like it's dependent on that. Versus you think about a Star-Lord deck and the original ones, everyone, what did we do? Oh, we're floating energy. We're playing Star-Lord on 2. we're playing Sunspot on 2. Got it. And then we all kind of moved away from that, where it was like this and Jim Hammond, but it was always a good option. And Warlock decks did the same thing. Moon Girl, She-Hulk decks did the same thing classically. They just automatically put you in that mindset of, I have to capitalize on the float. The value of the float built into this card all by itself means it can be more plug and play and not need to get another deck slot dedicated to capitalizing on what you're quote unquote missing out on.
Dude, floating this for Iska and then letting your Sunspot go 4 on your Invisible Woman combo. Oh, that's so good. I know you're like, I don't need to play this with Sunspot. Yeah, you do.
No.
Yeah, you do. Boy.
Not always. I mean, for that combo, no shit. Yeah, but like,
holy shit. No, but yeah, like you could do him as like, tutor my Sarah in your Living Tribunal deck, right? Like that kind of stuff is. Yeah, there's
meaningful.
Other things. Another thing I wanted to play out. Other than that is my favorite thing I've ever heard in my entire life. That where I'm just like, I'm doing my Invisible Woman combo. This guy turns into Iska, and I'm floating 4 on my Sunspot for the Invisible Woman combo. GG. Please do not mention the cards Cosmic Ghost Rider or Electra to me. They're fake. But like I do think that like, yeah, I can totally see this guy as like I go and copy one of your payoffs in Invisible Woman First Steps once Iska comes out. Totally buy that. Mm-hmm. I also see him in Tribunal stuff for sure. C3 though, like yes, because you play a lot of bad things that cost 3 anyway. Like you're just fine to play 1. But this guy is not as reliable as you'd want in terms of actually getting Cerebro in a deck that plays Cosmo and Mystique and Luke Cage. It's like,
that's not why I want him in C3 though. That's not at all why I want him in C3. I'm specifically looking at if I can get him down on either turn 2 or turn 3, Magus. My goal is to play a 1-drop on turn 4. 1-drop on turn 5 if I didn't draw Bastion. Like if I don't have him,
sure.
Which I just realized what I said and realized
it doesn't work.
Yeah. But
yeah, okay.
it does change some things right off the bat. I did recognize that as I said it, and I'm still keeping it, and I'm not going to change what I said. Okay. I'm just going to reflect and realize these are the reasons that on reveal would not work. But there are other targets that it would be benefiting from.
Yeah, I sort of think it's just a Cerebro copy bot, and I don't think it's worth doing what you have to do. I don't think it's worth doing what you have to do to make it 1.
Because when I was building the deck, the thing that I realized I was doing, like one of the other variations before I realized what I just realized was, oh, maybe I could just float 5 and use it as a Valk. And then it felt really awkward as like a Valk solution because you're playing it on 2 or 3. And then I was, you know what? Just rewinding all of the on reveals back. It's totally fine. Yeah. But then you start also thinking about the rest of the deck too. You start thinking about the Kingpin, the Nightcrawler move. Yeah. You're thinking about obviously all of the 3s because there's really 4 3s you're playing in that deck. Almost guaranteed every single time. Cerebro, Mystique, and Cosmo, and Luke Cage.
One of them is actually a good hit. I guess hitting Luke Cage will win you the game some of the time. Hitting Cosmo will be very rare.
Yeah. True. I do think there is a way to make him work in C3 that is really good. I just don't know what that is yet. But I would expect him to have a home there. I think his best home overall right now, though, is going to be taking ongoing another layer deep without the need for having the Spectrum play because of all of the extra combo-y stuff that we can do for scalings. I'm not sure what that looks like yet, but it's something that I have been already starting to mill on with this version of the card.
Gut check, if you ask me what the best deck to play this in, I would say Tribunal. And then in a week, I might say IWFS. I think those 2 are probably the decks that I think are going to be like have an actual chance at being good.
Yeah, because at least with Tribunal, depending on the build that you're doing, like if you're doing the arms build or not, are you all in Tribunal or are you all in arms or not? Either one of those
Either one, yeah. I guess I should clarify. It doesn't have to just be Tribunal. It could be the Splat deck, right? The Mr. Fantastic, do a bunch of copies of Mr. Fantastic.
Correct.
Also a valid strategy because like those decks both really key off of turn 5. You have played a Magic, turn 5 Sarah, turn 6 Onslaught, play my entire hand, right? Like that's kind of the nut, right? And this card can be either of those two cards, which is really good. It's just really good.
Yeah.
It's just a really good thing.
It's a really solid option also to get out the Magic. If you pull very heavy and all you have is your Magus, okay, play it down on 2, activate on 3. Boom.
Dude, how have you made this mistake again?
Shut up.
Anyway, please. They said comedy comes in 3s. Can you do it one more time for me?
I think I've already done it 3 times. I've lost count.
It was Valkyrie too. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. We're done.
Yeah.
We're done with the gimmick. Comedy no longer comes in 3s. But yeah, no, I think that, you know, obviously if that did work, the card would be even better in the deck. But I do think it's mostly just like this deck really wants specific stuff and has a bunch of specific utility at different costs. So it's pretty likely that you're going to know what it is it's going to be. And there's a lot of diversity of costs in there and specific effects. And that is the thing that Magus thrives on. It's also a thing that thrives on just like you being able to say, I don't give a shit what the power of my cards are. I only care about their text. The only thing I care about is the text and how the text interacts with the other text. And I just straight up don't give a shit about anything else.
Is there a world where this is a important tech piece if En Sabah Nur gets out of control? Kind of similar to what I was talking about earlier.
To get Stardust?
Yeah, for Stardust.
I doubt it. I find it hard to believe En Sabah Nur will be out of control enough that it necessitates that.
Just keep it in the back.
En Sabah Nur is very like,
just in case.
This very like mid-rangey card where it's like, do you remember when people were playing Mobius for Scar decks? And it's like, okay, cool. You countered my Scar, but like, I don't give a shit because you're so far behind on tempo that you just lose anyway.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like one of those where it's like, I don't know what En Sabah Nur would have to be doing to be broken enough for me to play this and skip turn 4, but it would have to be Star-Lord level. It would have to be like, holy shit, we are instantly dead if that's happened. That's the only way I'm making that play.
I have a feeling there's going to end up being some weird ass En Sabah Nur, Morgan Le Fay, amazing kind of BS deck that's going to require that kind of stupidity of we need to get ready for this. You know,
I'm going to take the under on that one, brother.
I'm just saying it doesn't have to be that specific deck, but I'm saying somebody's going to figure out the combo, right? There's just like every card that comes on out, there's at least a combo that you think about. There's best possible synergy. I've been trying to think on En Sabah Nur for a while, and sure, you look at numerically, of course, you want to toss a hood and convert it into an Infinite. That's just like straight up numbers as is. I'm not talking, you know, voids and fooms and that kind of stuff. Like just generally card for card, that's your biggest, easiest way to do it. That you're saying, wow, that's a 23-point swing. I'm really interested in that. Woohoo. But it's a lot harder than you think to actually make that kind of stuff a part of your regular game plan, because there's also variance built in. I think when you have a card like Magus in here that allows you the ability to get that backup turn 4 card, that might be the best way generally that we end up looking at it, as only your turn 4. Turn 5 for obviously specifically the Spectrum deck. I mean, sorry, the Tribunal deck. But I look at where's the best value for this card, and I think it is turn 4.
I think it's just going to be pretty contextual, right? Like, I don't really think of it like. I think it's probably the wrong way to look at a card like this, which is it tricks you into thinking it's a generalist. This is a card you're like, oh, I'm going to do so many things with this. And it's not. What you're actually doing is you're putting this card in your deck to be the second copy of a card you desperately need to draw. It's actually a very specific card. And so thinking about it in terms of value absent context is sort of like, I don't know, it's like missing the forest for the trees here. This is it's not a master key that opens a bunch of doors. It's a key that opens only the door to Fort Knox. Like it's just not like that. It's only ever going to be a hyper contextual card. It's never going to be a card where you're like, the value is on turn 4, because it's like, what if I built the deck where that isn't true? And I think most decks, it's just like, it's probably not good enough to be played like that. Does that make sense?
I see what you're saying. I look at it from a deck building perspective. Even if I can't fucking get the mechanic of the card right to build a damn deck for it. With that said, it's fine. With that said, though, it does present a unique challenge to figuring out what is the super important turn for you. Like you talk about Tribunal with this card. Of course, you want the Serra, right? You want the reduction, or you want the Iron Man because you're doing the full stack. You want the whatever it is, however you're building your deck, you have a very specific card, a very specific turn that you want a very specific card. I look at this and
but that turn will change based on what you have, though, right?
Of course.
In that deck, it's turn 5 if you don't have the Serra, but if you do have the Serra and you don't have the Onslaught, well, suddenly it's turn 6, and it's just like that's why I found it hard to like give you an actual answer to the question of like what turn is the value on here. I think like if I'm playing this in the Invisible Woman deck, it's like turn 6, right? Like I want to do this on turn 6, copy an Iska and float 4 for my Sunspot. Like that's when I want to do it, right? Or I want to do it at a different time and try to like use this to be a duplicate Invisible Woman because I have a Jocasta combo and I don't even care that I don't get to activate the Invisible Woman because I'm just doing double Jocasta or whatever, right? Like it's always super specific with this guy. And I just don't know if I have a good answer for when the value turn is. It's always going to be about what he's in the deck to do.
I guess I look at it through the perspective of if I have to how do I word this? Instead of going at it from the tactic of this is a backup plan, this is a proactive plan, right? Like if I'm going in with the mindset of I'm playing Doom 2099, I put down Magus on either 2 or 3, and I still haven't drawn to Doom 2099 in my Doom 2099 deck, right? Activate on 4, and then I still get to do 5 and 6, which are more valuable turns in that style of deck. Versus the just in case backup.
I would imagine that's super not worth doing for what it's worth. Like that's sort of what I mean. Like
you see what I'm saying though about like the cost.
I see what you're saying, but I just don't think that exists. Like what is a value for that has 0 power and isn't an honor?
I'm talking proactive again. I'm talking about the
idea.
I know,
but like if you're looking for, that's what I'm saying. Is like if you're trying to play this proactively, that's the kind of card you're looking for. You're looking for a value for that like has a very specific ongoing ability, presumably, right? Like that's kind of what you're trying to like. What is a build around in that vein? Because I think like if you're playing Doom 2099, what you're suggesting just isn't worth doing. And even then it's still kind of like, here's my backup for when I don't draw the card, right? So like proactively building around this, I would actually imagine is more about like, if you want to build a Magus deck, I think it's about 5s. I think what you're doing is you're playing Magus, Warlock, and Moon Girl. And you're skipping on Iron Man and Claw. Like if you're like, KM, stop talking about like things that are built around other shit. Talk about something that's built around this. I think it's that.
Yeah, I guess depending on which direction of how many backup plans versus how many proactive plans you're trying to build with the card, it does change the mission of the card. If that makes sense. But I guess more often than not, if I'm looking at wanting to build with the card, I'm wanting to build proactively, saying this is what I'm looking for versus what I'm recovering from.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just think that like this guy is basically specifically like, imagine you go to the store and there's a bag in the front of the store and it just says the backup plan man. and you bought the bag and you were like, okay, what's in this? You opened it up and there's a backup plan. And you're like, well, shit. I wanted a build around. I didn't want a backup plan. And it's like, sometimes that's just what a card is, right? Like I respect where your head is at here. It's a good mentality to have, but it's sort of like saying, you know, when I wanted to go get Mercury, I wanted to build around her. And it's like, that's just not what she is, right? She's a card that you use in the context of what other people are playing.
Yeah, she evolved into that role more, though.
Yeah, like, I guess Mercury's a bad example because of Cannonball. Sorry. I'm going to go get a card like, I don't know, Cosmo. Not really a lot of building around Cosmo. He evolves to answer threats, but he's defined by what he's stopping, not by what he's doing.
I think you're close. I think Daredevil is a good one because we saw how the reaction of Daredevil started to go,
you can build around, honestly. I would argue Daredevil's a build around. This is kind of an interesting conversation, just like what you consider a build around and what you don't.
Well, I'm looking at it like, look at the evolution of this past season of what happened with Daredevil. We went from it being a defensive play to it actually being an offensive play because it was countering the defensive play.
Yeah, I buy that. I just think that, like, what's the least build around card in Marvel Snap? That's actually just like kind of an interesting thought. I've never thought. Iron Patriot. No, you build around that. You need to play like a big three. You build around Iron Patriot. You need to do that.
I think it's the freest inclusion in the entire game, though. That's the more diverse a card is.
It's not the same thing, I think. Like, what's the least build around? What is the card that is just there's no clauses on this?
Spider Pick.
Yeah.
Spider Ham. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I was thinking maybe Iron Man, who can be a build around, but mostly just is a guy who is big, right? Like, I think it's interesting where you draw that line is basically what I'm getting at here. Because Magus is the backup plan man. That's his job. And he's presumably, I would imagine, pretty good at it now. And I feel like knocking him because he's not like, I don't know. It feels to me like saying, like, you know, I played Doom 2099, but sometimes I wanted to play 2 cards on the final turn of the game. And it's like, well, don't like, just don't do that. Yeah. like, what do you mean? Like, I think, you know, Mercury's a bad example. Mobius is a bad example. Both of those have things you can make them work well with. Cannonball, Pixie,
right? Things like that,
right? But it is sort of like, you know, I want to play Mr. Negative, but I want to play like a value mid-range Mr. Negative deck. It's like, no, you don't.
A negative you don't want to do that. Just a small package of negative, you know?
You don't want to do that. What are you talking about, right? Like, that's sort of how I feel.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I just feel like he's got a role. And like, you know, it's definitely not an exciting role. And that's probably why he's the Season Pass Plus card. And he's not being asked to carry a lot of weight. But he's got a role. And I think it's good that he can actually do it.
Now you've got me really like going down this rabbit hole mentally of like, what are the
least build around card? Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think, no, I disagree with that. I think we were kind of at that point with Deafening Chord. Like we were getting into that. Like old Deafening Chord was very much a free inclusion.
Old Merlin, the world's freest man. But you still did stuff in deck building for him, I think. Like you still would build towards his strengths. It's just old Nocturne. That's actually it.
Yeah.
That's actually it. It's actually old Nocturne. Yeah. That's actually what it is.
Yeah.
It's old Nocturne. That's the least build around card of all time. Nobody ever built around Nocturne. It just would go in your deck. It'd be good.
Yeah, every time. Yeah, now because we could go back into the depths of chaos. Actually, you know what? I might be able to do one better. I think it might have been old Mr. Fantastic. First steps.
Yep. No, that's good. That's really good. Both of those, old Mr. Fantastic, old Nocturne.
Every deck.
Drop Primo.
Like
just it's in there. It's just in there. Am I building around this? Am I doing anything to make this card better than it is? Nope. It's just doing things that are good. Like nothing, no thought required whatsoever at all under any circumstances. It just goes in your deck and it's good. Yeah, I think those are better pulls than Iron Patriot, personally.
Yeah,
Because like at least
thinking
Iron
more
Patriot's
about
like
it. Yeah,
nominal like Iron Patriot is definitely very splashable. But it's like nominal argument that you need cards that work with him. Like get a Hydra Bob in there, even a Mercury, a Drax. You care about moving stuff out of the lane. You care about like countering that kind of negative build. The negatives of Iron Patriot are like you overfill your lane early. And so things that can avoid that are good. Anything that has like reasonable stats on 3 to guarantee it is good. Whereas like Nocturne is just like, you don't give a shit. It just goes in there. It's just there.
It's just like,
it's just
I need a
deck.
3. Oh yeah, Nocturne. Wait, okay, so it's a 10 card deck. Now we've got that. And that.
You don't give a shit. Yeah, like it's in the deck. Whatever. I don't give a. I don't even care what the deck is.
We almost got to that point with at different times with Shadow King and Shang-Chi. We almost got to that point, but I think they were still more free inclusions that go over those thresholds because there's teching for everything. In a catch-all like Shang-Chi basically was. But there were still decks that you didn't want to play it in versus, I mean, you were putting Mr. Fantastic First Steps into literally everything.
Nimrod.
Yeah.
You're playing that guy everywhere.
Cerebro, like everything.
Well, okay, relax. You're not putting him in Cerebro. Can I just get a bit off about Cerebro gamers? I've probably brought this one up before because frankly, I don't think I can go a week without discussing it.
Sure.
Every time a patch happens, there's a Cerebro in my mentions. Like,
always.
I can't believe they nerfed or buffed or whatevered my Cerebro deck. And it's like, I have heard it for every goddamn Cerebro number. It's like whether it's a card that got added to a Cerebro deck or a card that got removed from a Cerebro deck. It's like, guys, stop.
Yeah.
I realize that whenever the power of a card changes, it affects Cerebro. It can't not.
Yeah.
I know that none of you are out there seriously playing Jeffin C3 right now because you took him out for Nightcrawler last week. I know that.
Yep. 100%.
Like somewhere there is somebody who's playing Star-Lord in C9 and they're like, I can't believe that I have to play they ruined my C9. It's like, what are we talking about here? Yes, every power card change, every card change that involves power will affect some Cerebro deck somewhere, presumably.
Yep.
I know this because that is how the card works. I am aware.
And I think it's specifically 2 and 3, just because people get a little bit overzealous with C4 at times.
It's not, dude. You hear about like, oh my God, dude. I've heard about C6. I've heard about C4.
C4 did have a time in the sun.
I've heard about C5. I've heard about all these C decks. Every time I do a video, one of the comments on the patch notes is like, buff to C3, nerf to C4, buff to C5. It's just like, guys, it's driving me insane. Please stop.
Do you see what I see? No, I don't.
Oh my God.
Stop it.
I don't know. Stop it. Were you going to actually play C4 now? Come on. Like,
but it gets to play the Shadow King. That's relevant.
It was for a brief moment actually relevant. I don't know. You're doing the voice, but that actually was the only reason it was ever relevant. So there you go.
I don't know.
SK got Prodigy.
Oh yeah, I forgot Prodigy's in that. Anyway, I mean, I don't play a lot of Cerebro, but I am intrigued to go back to Cerebro 3 because of Magus, kind of bringing that full circle.
Sure.
What I do think is interesting is the timing of the conversation surrounding Cerebro, because it's the evil combination of Magus getting this change and Golden Gauntlet coming up next week. And a lot of people are flashing back to November and they're saying, hey, what won the world final? Okay, Cerebro 3. Sure. Wait, Cerebro 3 just got a new toy. Hold on. Is this meta good for Cerebro 3 in a tournament setting? Wait.
It already was.
No, like this specific meta. Like this.
But yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying. Like it already was. Cerebro 3 is a deck that can outpower Sholau and has Daredevil Cosmo for Starlord. It already, if the tournament was held last week, I would have been like, yo, Cerebro 3 is kind of nice with it. Like genuinely, I fully believe that. I think that in a tournament setting, it's got some distinct qualities to it that you could describe as an advantage or a disadvantage. But yeah, I think that like if the tournament happened last week, I would have already told you Cerebro was good. Yeah. So I want to get out ahead of this and tell you that if the deck is good, it does not have to do with friggin' Magus. I'm gonna get ahead of that one.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to do with that. It has to do with the other things I said.
I wonder, okay, so contextually, because I don't know what you know, but last night, on the same day that this podcast is going out, an episode of 8 Cube Circus is also going out. I recorded last night for the first time ever with Zanaid, Denish, and Smiz. And we talked Golden Gauntlet. We talked last year's analytics. And it was not the first time, but it's been a long time since I went into like those numbers since last year. And then really looking at card analytics, getting ready for, talking about things that happened in trends and kind of reflecting back on the different metas and the techpocalypse, and then kind of leading all of that into the conversation about, the current meta. And it's weird where in a tournament setting, even with as much that has happened as has happened in the last 6 months, 5 months, whatever it's been since Worlds last year, it still ends up being a conversation of, you know what, C3 could probably still do it again. It could still be good enough. And then it makes me ask from your perspective, because something I didn't ask them that I'd love to ask you. Why? Why do we end up back at this place again, thinking that if you're going into the tournament, I'm still telling people, look, your best bet, if you can pilot it, is probably going to be Sholau Batroc. Right now, I think it's still the most consistent deck, and that's very much what you're going to want is flexibility and decision paralysis is a little bit hindered on turn 5 with that deck. It makes it a lot easier to play in that setting, in my opinion. But I'm already hearing people saying, you know what I need to bring in? Red Skull.
I mean, when you say people, you mean Zanaid, but yes,
he's one of them. But it is like something
Zanaid
where
is the king of farming Cerebro gamers in that he is a Red Skull one trick. It is his truly
he
the
is
greatest
a Sauron
contribution
one
he
trick
makes to society.
Specifically,
but like the greatest contribution he makes to society is farming Cerebro gamers. Love him to death. That's my goat. I think that Cerebro is a tough deck to play on ladder because some amount of the equity is wrapped up in bluff snaps. Some amount of the equity is wrapped up in your ability to deal with locations. And a lot of it is just, are you willing to grind out and put up with some of the worst possible outcomes known to man? Are you willing to put up with that?
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that I would be very careful picking a deck before Iska comes out specifically. Yeah. I would be very careful doing that because I'm looking at Iska and I'm looking at this Magus and I'm looking at skipping 4 on the final turn of the game on my Sunspot. And I'm looking at man, there is not a lot in this world that beats that. Like nice Sholau, it got +3 power, and then my cards doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled, and it's like suddenly that +4 becomes, I don't know, X. I don't know what the number is, 8, 7 for I don't know. The point is, it gets multiplied by a bunch, and you are sitting there looking really annoyed. And maybe I also have Athena, and who the hell knows what I'm doing on the final turn of the game?
Final turn Havoc. Yeah, like just
bunch
Havoc.
Of shit, right? Like final turn, just Havoc. Activate this, get Iska. But even then, it's like that kind of stuff is really strong and will dictate responses from the metagame. Mm-hmm. Like you will be like, oh, I need a Cosmic Ghost Rider or whatever, and then suddenly you're like, well, if I'm a Cosmic Ghost Rider, can I be a Sholau Batroc deck? Do I have that latitude? Do I need to be doing that? Do I need to be doing other stuff? What am I building around here? And Cerebro 3's big advantage is that so much of taking the deck is wrapped up in just being a Cerebro deck. Like so much of your positioning is wrapped up in that it's like, you know, unless you make really big mistakes on what you're bringing in the specific, like unless you like, I don't know, fail to get Daredevil Cosmo in there, you're going to have the matchup spread you're going to have almost regardless of what changes you make. You take Magus, you don't take Magus, I don't really care. Right? Like it doesn't really matter to me. I will still think the deck is roughly the same. Whereas like another deck is going to be much more defined by what specific choice did I make? Your plan is so linear and binary that it's like, I don't care unless you're really missing something big. I just don't care.
Cerebro 3 is the dumb guy deck for not dumb guys.
Yes. It's the dumb guy deck of like, it is the Doom 2099 of combo decks.
Okay. I see where you're going. Yeah. It's an interesting way to look at it, because there's also like for anybody who's going into Golden Gauntlet, you know, with first time, millionth time, doesn't matter. It's always interesting looking at what people bring, because I'm a big proponent of bring the deck you know best, because you'll always play that best. And then there's like different progression tiers, and we see this in play rates where you start thinking, okay, bring the deck you know best, or bring the deck that's been working really well recently, or the counter to that, or the counter to both of those, or the counter to that. And it's that, you know, as I called it, it's like how many layers in chess deep are you thinking about your moves? And deck building does the exact same thing in the tournament setting, is how many layers deep do you want to go? And if you go down the right rabbit hole during that, you end up at Batrick Hydra Stomper. And
can I tell you, can I jump in here? I got before I forget. But there's a great Magic piece called Leveled Thinking from like 2011 that details this, right? And this conversation came up. It's on a website called starcitygames.com. So I linked the article in my Discord. I read the article. I scroll down to the bottom, and it's just like the ending of the article is just like the author doing like, here's some funny things that happened on Facebook at the time, because it's 2011. And there's a player who was at the time was famous for being like a legacy player named AJ Soccer, who was like flaming somebody. And in the comments was none other than our very own Zapgaze in 2011. It was in the comments of that Facebook post in this article. It was incredible. It was an incredible
That's
moment.
Awesome.
Just like, oh my God, I got jump scared. He was just like, holy shit, Monty, what the hell?
What are you doing here, bro? You know,
it was just like, Jesus Christ, what the hell? But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because it was a very surreal moment for me. That it's very interesting that you brought up leveled thinking in this context, because you're the only other person that I could be like, what the hell is Monty doing here?
Yeah,
and have it actually mean anything.
Just
yeah, it was a very surreal experience. Anyway, please continue.
No, it's just it's interesting when you're thinking about preparing to play competitively in a showcase, right? You're going to Golden Gauntlet and you have to think, what are you comfortable with and what you're making an assessment of? And I think a lot of people just simply net deck due to insecurity rather than going with the deck that is the most win security for them, right? We've seen win security almost always do better. But you can make predictions simultaneously depending on how far you want to look into that analysis. And I could tell you, hey, listen, bring your favorite deck. But this deck is really good right now, the Sholao Batrick deck. But people will also play this to kind of get ready for that deck simultaneously, and they'll play these cards. But it's just you continue down that thought rabbit hole, and you have to figure out where to stop without sacrificing your skill.
Yeah. I think it's very reasonable to say something like the deck that is most likely to get to you to the top 16 is not the same thing as the deck that is most likely to win the tournament. That was part of what we were talking about when I was prepping with Cerebro with Zapgaze. We weren't actually prepping for him to win the tournament. We were just like, what'll get you like 5-1?
Yeah.
That was basically the thought process, right?
Mhm.
Turns out it did, but that's because he's really good, right? Like he's
Yeah.
a really good player, obviously. I think that this kind of thing, first of all, there is one thing I want to add on. Like you talk about playing the deck that you're most comfortable with, right? The number one piece of advice I can give to you is that is not set in stone. Oh, play the deck you're most comfortable with. You've got a week. Go learn a deck. You can learn a deck. I believe in you. Like, oh, I'm most comfortable on this. Therefore, I should not even try to get comfortable on something else. Terrible process. Horrendous process. Your comfort level on a deck is not a static value. You can change that, and you can make good decisions about changing that. That is extremely real, first of all.
I 100%
Second
agree
of
with
all, I just think that like it's one of those things that like but people sometimes need to hear. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No.
Like I think it's very easy to give yourself an excuse to do something you already wanted to do, which is not change your deck. And it's like you need to not take it as an excuse to do that.
To throw a number at it and just to try to like contextualize it, like if you knew that going into it, you had a 80% chance by playing your destroy deck, right? But you also have a 75% chance by playing Sholal Batroc. You learn the little bit extra and you take that risk of less knowledge about the deck, knowing that the matchups are better because of what the deck organically does. It's because you're looking at what does the deck do into it. I think
you got your percentages backward there. Did I
say it backwards?
You said 80 and then 75, and it's like actually what you're saying would match the other version of that if it was 75 and then 80.
Thank you for the correction. Yes, the thought was there, but the numbers came out backwards. Yep. But you understand what I'm trying to say, though, where you have to figure out what is exactly the balance of risk because of lack of knowledge versus comfort, based on how does that deck play into the field.
Yeah. Like if you don't know anything and you're not going to play the game a lot, play an easy deck and play something you're comfortable with. Totally valid, totally 100% a reasonable thing to do. No issues here. If you are like actually going to try, well, then it probably is being like, what's the best deck and how comfortable can I get on it? Because you aren't going to be able to give it a fair shot until you are. And at the very least, when you get experience on a deck, I think to my mind, the best way for me, at least, to learn how to beat a deck is to play the deck and then be like, what am I losing to? And that's going to help you in the tournament because you can be like, okay, what did I lose to? How can I put people in those situations where I lost? Pretty straightforward. A lot of Marvel Snap is about. I'm gonna get killed in the comments.
Oh boy!
It's about putting someone in a situation. It's about I overuse the word situation. It's a thing, but it's about putting someone in a position that you are familiar with and they are less familiar with. You're talking about comfort, right? Like that. It's about. But you can learn what makes a deck uncomfortable from certain things. But like here are just a couple of basic examples, right? If you're playing Cosmic Ghost Rider to deal with Star-Lord, that'll work against a lot of people, but it won't work against a Star-Lord player who holds their Star-Lord until 5.
Right.
It won't work on that. Supergiant will. Daredevil Cosmo will. But Cosmic Ghost Rider won't. Like there are certain dynamics where it's like if your opponent is clever enough to notice this and change how they play, they can get out of the situation that you have put them in. And just like that kind of stuff, knowing that will swing how you evaluate a matchup. Oh, I have CGR. I counter them. That's only true if you beat a turn 5 Star-Lord. Are you beating Fang Foom Juggernaut? What is your plan if that happens? Are you able to do that, right? Like that kind of stuff is going to be pretty influential on how you evaluate matchups. And I think a player that is really good at changing these contexts is Honifer, who's just been playing a ton of Star-Lord and none of it basically has been the stock list because he has been continually adapting his play to what people are doing. He's been
Right.
doing all sorts of wacky stuff, like playing Magic and legioning away his own Magic. Like
Mhm. I
all
saw that
sorts of
list,
just
yeah.
like, what can I get away with in this that people just aren't really going to expect, so I can put them in situations that they do not understand, but I do.
Yeah.
And like Honifer's a player. I think if I had to pick one player in the field that I was like, this guy's going to win the Golden Gauntlet, I'd pick Honifer. I think he's just crushing right now. He's doing amazing.
Yeah, you talk about the Magic and Legion 1 in particular, and information displacement and trying to constantly keep your opponent second guessing, right? I think because I also think that Magic's going to be a surprisingly good card, but I also think because of what's happened over the last couple of months, I think that Cosmo, not only will it be the #1 most played card in the field, I think that less than half of the decks that make the top 16 will have Cosmo.
That's a good one. We should have done like a, I wish we'd thought of this 2 hours ago, but we should have done like a set up a prop bet kind of deal thing where like we each propose things and then the other one gives odds on it. That would have been a good pre-Golden Gauntlet
we still have
podcast.
another episode of this to release before the Golden Gauntlet actually happens.
I think that might have to be the move next week. I think next week we might have to do like one of us comes up with the proposition and the other one puts the odds on it, and we sort of just track those across how it goes. I think that's good.
All right, I'll write that down. So we'll do that next week too for prop bets for the Golden Gauntlet. But I do think that is something that's going to be notable, because I think it's safe. We saw it last year because I went through all the analytics, prepping for the 8 Cube Circus podcast, but not realizing, how relevant Merlin was until you really look at it and go, oh, wow, this was everywhere. And Shadow King at the time, 2 and 3 cost version, everywhere. Shang-Chi, first 2 events.
I was wrong about how important Merlin was to Sholau. I can be like, yeah, no, but I don't think I was wrong to think it. Does that make sense? Like when you look at how good Merlin was, I think it's really reasonable to be like, this guy was a big part of why this card is good. Yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense, even though it ended up being wrong. I think I look back at my thought process and I'm like, no, I can totally see how I got there.
Yeah,
I can totally
it was justified because the play lines, everything just said this is too synergetic. This is a problem. Not realizing, oh, wait, I could just play 3 1-drops and also then play Kate Bishop and then maybe potentially Prowler. And you know what? I don't need this anymore.
Wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, the drop off wasn't enough because Kate Bishop's quite good, and that's fine, basically.
I
right?
think
and because if you're hybridizing with Sholau, you're hybridizing with Maverick, which means you need 1 drop. So Kate Bishop and Kitty Pryde are actually better than Merlin, so you can actually use the Maverick anyway. So these are things that I think I could have noticed. I don't think it's like letting me off the hook, but I look back at that and I'm just like, you know what? I don't think I was stupid for thinking Merlin was a problem. I think he was. I think he actually was still a problem.
He was a problem, but we were identifying what the problem was incorrectly.
Yep.
Because I was with you 100%. I'm not going to second guess or try to dance around it either. Like, you saw it everywhere and you saw it as a justifiable way to kind of prop it into every deck. And then realized it got even better when you put it with this combo. And then, oh my God, it's broken. So, okay, so let's unbreak it. Oh, wait, no. Sholau is still a problem. Merlin's fine now. Like, it's just the progression of how that all kind of happened. Definitely, I think shocking is the better way to just simply encapsulate it, because we didn't see it coming like that.
Yep. I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah, I like it. So yeah, so next week we'll do prop bets and odds for the Golden Gauntlet. Yeah. Great. I'm okay with that.
I honestly, I worry about doing it because gambling is bad. Don't gamble.
Well, that means there has to be actual, financial stakes. I'm just talking, there's reputation on the line. And as a content creator and getting roasted in the comments, that's our currency.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that it can be I'm conscious of the media you consume influencing you, right? Like sometimes when I watch a TV show for the next 3 days, I'll be importing like turns of phrase from it. I'm a very
Yeah.
easily influenced man. Like it's very easy to do, right? I'll watch like I sometimes like when I'm like I really need to like get in the zone, I'll be like I need to like feel clever for a few days and think more cleverly. I'll be like I need to watch a show that is clever. I like it. It's insane, but it is real. All I'm saying is like if they see us being like haha gambling is fun and then they start gambling, that's bad. And if only one person does that, it's bad. We contributed to that. And thus I feel like it is important to say, don't fucking gamble.
This portion of the broadcast is brought to you by DraftKings. Hashtag not sponsored. Hashtag not sponsored.